Good. Now, I'm going to talk about dinosaurs and dragons and talk about their footprints in the Bible because they are not so evident, but I'm going to give you clear scriptures to tell you that these are dinosaurs and dragons in the scriptures. Now, since the discovery of dinosaur fossils, many people have questions, right? I'm sure you have some questions as well. So dinosaurs are fascinating animals. Yesterday I just came from a church in Sembawang AUG, Assembly of God, and talking to the Sunday school people. So the kids were fascinated and they went berserk when you have a dinosaur coming into the room, even with someone in a suit, in a dinosaur suit. So these are fascinating animals, and perhaps dragons are also somewhat mythical, right? Because we don't know what is the difference between a dragon and a dinosaur. So I'm going to clarify that as well for you. And this is the year of the dragon, right? According to the Chinese zodiac. So I'm going to talk about the zodiac as well. And so the pop culture status adds more mystery than addressing the question, particularly Jurassic Park and a series of films that I've gone through. Many of them are actually not real. Not real in the sense that they actually exaggerate some of the things that they say on the screen. Yeah? I used to like the first one, then I didn't follow anymore, so I can't tell you more about Jurassic Park and whatnot. So the question I have for us to discover this afternoon is, what does the Bible say about dinosaurs and dragons? Did God create them? Were they on the ark? Did they die out 65 million years ago? Why is dinosaurs not mentioned in the Bible? So these are the questions we're going to address, yeah? Now, if these questions may generate doubts and also imaginations not compatible with the Bible if they are not addressed properly. So, in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5, in the King James Version, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of God and bringing into captivity every thought that is obedience to Christ. So that is really important to understand what the scriptures say about these creatures because they are real. We have the fossils. Yeah? The fossils testify that they existed from the beginning. Now, I'm going to share with you a testimony of a popular historian called Tom Holland. Unfortunately, it's a very negative testimony. So he says this: first, there were dinosaurs. I vividly remember my shock when I opened a children's Bible and found an illustration on its first page of Adam and Eve with a black-haired soul. 6 years old I may have been, but of one thing I was rock solid certain: no human being had ever seen a sauropod. A faint shadow of doubt for the first time had been brought to darken my Christian faith. So he unfortunately admit that he was misled by the world's imagination. He had questions about dinosaurs in the Bible, but he didn't follow them up to discover what is actually the Bible is saying about dinosaurs. Instead, he chose the secular pathway, the so-called consensus of the world, and became an atheist. But the highlights in yellow there on the screen for you, 6 years old, I was rock solid certain. That is an exaggeration, or perhaps a false claim. When I was 6 years old, I was never certain about a lot of things. But he is rock solid, rock solid certain that such a thing doesn't exist. So I'm going to skip this and just to go through this one, no need again. So just to make sure that you subscribe to our Info Bites, it's free newsletter. It sort of summarizes the articles that appeared in the week that are important, maybe based on also the current events that are happening in the world. So don't miss out this newsletter, subscribe it. You can subscribe to the book at the book table, or you can subscribe now on screen by scanning this QR code. Just open your phone camera, scan it, and then you link you to the Info Byte page, and then you can subscribe for it. We don't spam your email inbox. We just give you a one email summary of the articles that are available once a week. Okay. Now we are on social media, So I just told you that our videos have received, the recent videos, 90 million views. We have 225,000 new followers on this because these are important issues to them. Some of them, they hinge their faith on some of the questions that they cannot answer. So we are addressing some of these questions for them. I'd like to begin with this slide, which is an AI-generated image with Copilot. As you're probably aware, the lion and tigers are symbols of Singapore and Malaysian soccer teams, respectively. The old scores are all fossils now, so we're not going to resurrect them. But what I'm going to tell you is this, that the lion and the tiger belong to the cat kind, cat family. Yeah? Are you aware that their first pair of ancestors once represented a very good creation? The cat, ancestor cat, which we don't know how they look like because it's all destroyed in the flood. As a result of the corruption of the Eden, they fell and became predators. Yeah? Can they be vegetarian? That is the question. Can they be tamed, minus a predatory behavior today? Well, we have a couple of articles on that. The first one is the tigers and the pigs together. This appears in the Creation Magazine, volume 27, 2005. This one is very close to us. It's in Siraka Zoo in Thailand. So if you go to Thailand, you should visit the zoo. The cubs are fed with pig and tiger's milk. And they exist together. They form a symbiotic relationship, happily exist together, side by side. And the reason is because in Genesis 1 verse 30, it says, to every beast of the earth I have given every green herb and for meat, and it was so. Yeah? So initially, when all the animals were created, including man, we were not carnivorous. We didn't eat meat. We were all vegetarians. You don't believe me? You read Genesis 1 verse 30 and 31. You will see that. Yeah. So this news affirms the plain text in Genesis. Of course, now it's extremely difficult to raise say a tiger or a lion to like vegetables. That is more difficult. But in those days, they are all vegetarians. We have an article also on Leah, the lioness. It's a spaghetti lioness. It's appeared in our Creation Magazine, volume 29, verse 2007. So carnivory is a fallen behavior of the predators. So the question is, what about dinosaurs and dragons? In 2004, there is a ferocious-looking beast discovered in US. It looks like a dragon. I'm sure you know what kind of animal it is. It is okay to have an opinion, yeah? So, I'm going to give you a quiz now. Is it a carnivore, a meat eater, a herbivore, a plant eater, or an omnivore, meat plant eater? Who picked A? It's okay to have an opinion. It's okay, don't worry. I'm not going to penalize you. No one pick A. B. Okay, there are a few of you pick A. B. Equal numbers. C. The safest way. A few of you, so about equal each, yeah? But I must tell you that this Dracorex is a vegetarian even after the fall. Remain a vegetarian even after the fall. So only eat vegetables. Because it's a W, basically it's a W dinosaur. So this thick-headed dinosaur, with a bit of imagination, the skull and the name may lead someone to conclude that it's a dragon. But Dracorex is actually a juvenile version of the thick-headed dinosaur. How do you differentiate a dinosaur from a dragon? If you follow the Hebrew words, you have to follow the Hebrew words, not the English words. The original Hebrew word or Greek text used in the Bible, then you can actually differentiate what is a dragon, what is a dinosaur. Basically, for us, before 1841, when dinosaur was invented, they were all dragons. The dragons of St. George, And I'm going to show you some of the pictures later on. Yeah, the dragons in the Middle Ages, they are all dragons. There are dragons also mentioned in the Bible. Yeah, I'm going to show you some scriptures as well. So in Revelation 12:9, so let's go investigate first the New Testament. Yeah, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So dragon in the New Testament is used solely in reference to Satan and the devil. All 13 times of mention is in 12 verses are found in Revelation only, in the New Testament. We know that animals cannot talk unless God make it to talk, like the donkey in Balaam's case. So Satan spoke through the old serpent in the Garden of Eden. Now the serpent, which is Nakash, was more subtle than any other beast of the field. Beast is Hayat, which the Lord God has made. Okay? Which means Nakash is actually a subset of the beast group called Hayat. There's another verse here in Genesis 1, verse 21, which is really about the creation of the creatures on the fifth day. So, and God created great whales, Tani-im. Yeah? The im is plural, Tanim is a singular word, and every living creature, Nefesh Kaya, that move which the water brought forth abundantly, after their kind, and every winged fowl of Kanaf after his kind, and God saw that it was good. So there are three broad classes of animals created on day 5. Tanin, Nefesh Kaya in the waters, they are the swimming animals. And then your Of Kana in the air, they are the flying animals. God used functional terms to describe them. God never classified them for us, but He allowed us to classify, reclassify the animals as we wish. So there is a new classification system invented by different scientists, put them together in all these taxonomy textbooks. Also dominant in the air, the flying animals make nests also in the trees, caves, cliffs, and on the ground as well. Yeah? So Tanin is a broad class in which such animals may also appear in shallow waters or even land. So the context of the Bible is very important to define what the Hebrew word means in the English rendering. Of course, during the translation, the translators have very few words to describe these animals. So some of the translation, the English words, may not be correct. That's why you have to follow the original text in Hebrew or Greek, so that you have a consistent story across the usage of the words in the Bible. Now, with the discovery of fossils, we know that on day 5, there are dinosaur-like reptiles. So plesiosaur and pterosaurs, these are two examples, very common examples of Tanin and of Kanaf. They are dinosaur-like reptiles. They are reptiles. Yeah? Now when you go to day 6 of creation, God created land animals. Dinosaurs are land animals. Dinosaurs are either bird heap or lizard heap. It's not really important because they are not birds, they are not lizards. Dinosaurs are reptiles basically. So I have another verse here for you to look at, Genesis 1 verse 25. And God made the beasts, Hayat, of the earth after his kind, and cattle, Behemah, after their kind, and everything that creepeth, which is Rames, upon the earth after his kind, and God saw that it was good. So God again made only 3 classes of terrestrial animals. All the nouns are singular, referring each to a collective group. Hayat, Behemah, and Rames. Rames are basically the insects, the centipedes, the millipedes, those are crawling on the ground. Yeah? It's a bit more descriptive than you know what they are. The English words beasts and cattle are limited, but fossils indicate that dinosaurs are walking land animals. So dinosaurs are a subgroup within the Hayat and Behemoth. Now, this verse is really, really revealing in Isaiah 27, verse 1. In that day, talking about the future, the Lord with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, the crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Now I put a great dash line across on the verse because the verse is divided into two halves. All Hebrew verses are divided into two halves. So the first half has got one idea, second half got one idea. The two ideas are of equal weight, regardless of the number of words used. They're of equal weight. So the midpoint of the verse is a semicolon there in English, and it's divided by the red line. In the first half of the verse, Nakash, serpent of day 6, and in Eden, is the Leviathan, the land animal, apparently, according to this verse. Yeah? In the second half, Tanin, the great whale of day 5, is the dragon of the sea monster. Okay? So you have two different creatures featured here, and it says that the Lord will slay with his sword both creatures. God used this as idiomatically represent the bad things of the world. The two persons who are going to lead the rebellion against God, the entire world. Usually when you rebel against God, you lost the image that God created you. So you become an animal. So God used animals to depict you. all the anti-God people, they are like animals. That's what God is saying. So the original text is consistent across the Bible, and context always defines the understanding in the text. So you need to really study the Word to be faithful to the Word of God. Don't give up the study of the Word of God even when you are near death. You should study until you are dying. Okay? Now, dinosaurs are basically reptiles based on a book that we have published by Joe Tay and also Jonathan Safati. There is the latest review of the recent research on fossils and biomaterials. They believe that dinosaurs are reptiles. So we can classify them as reptiles, but they are walking animals. Yeah? So there is a little bit of difficulty to understand the classification of dinosaurs, but they are reptiles. Genesis 7 verse 14 says this: they, which is Noah and the family, and every beast after his kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creepeth on the earth after his kind, and every fowl after this kind, every bird of the sort. That means they entered, this verse 14, entered into the ark. God sent them to Noah. Noah put them in the ark. Yeah? Now, there is a maximum of about 50 to 55 kinds of dinosaurs only. But you know, paleontologists, when they discover fossils, they like to name after them, right? According to Dr. Ronella just now. Because they want to be known as the new discoverer of a new species of dinosaur. That's why you have a lot of dinosaurs' names being different. But according to Jack Horner, the dinosaur guru in Montana, he said many of the species actually you can trim them down to just a few species, because in the young they look different, just like the one the one I show you, Decorex. It looks like a dragon when it's young, but actually it's a very tame dinosaur eating vegetables when it's older. So they were juveniles. They could fit into the ark. Okay? They're not necessarily to be big animals to go into the ark. In fact, God does not need to have big animals to go into the ark, because they need to be near the age of reproduction, so that when they came out of the ark, they're ready to reproduce again, to propagate their generations. Yeah? So that is the only requirement to get into the ark, that they can actually fit on the ark, because there are only 50 to 55 kinds of dinosaurs. Job 40 verse 15 to 18. I'm going to read to you. There's a very interesting story, a description of a new animal here. Behold now Behemoth, which I make with thee. He eateth grass like an ox. Lo now, his strength is in his loins, and his force is in the navel of his belly. Behemoth is a plural of behema, which we read just now, beast. Okay? So this is the type of animal within the beast group that God created on the sixth day. This is according to the definition in the lexicon, the concise Halot, which is a dictionary. Carry on to verse 17. He moved his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his stones are wrapped together. His bones are as strong pieces of brass. His bones are like bars of iron. Normally I use a different version. Now this KJV is basically for another church who asked us to give it in KJV. So anyway, this is a gigantic animal. Look at the construction of the sinews and the bones. The tail is as big as a cedar trunk as well. Okay? Now some commentaries, if you read the commentaries, interpreted it as an elephant or hippopotamus. Now this is incorrect because elephants and hippopotamus have tails like ropes, not like cedar trees. Yeah? So the description need to be interpreted according to the text which is given to us. I'm sure you know how a cedar trees look like, although there is no cedar trees in Malaysia and Singapore. Cedar of Lebanon is probably famous that you read about it. It's used to build the Temple of Solomon. It's an evergreen conifer of the pine family. Height is up to 40 meters. The elephant is only up to 3 meters tall. So it cannot be an elephant, right? And the tree trunk is up to 2.5 meter width. That's a huge trunk, yeah? So we can do an experiment. So we have a tail here. Let's try to fit the animal to the tail. So let's first fit the hippopotamus. It looks silly, isn't it, to fit this animal onto the tail. Second, we fit an elephant to it. It also doesn't work. And finally, bingo, we have a fit. If we put a behemoth, refers to a dinosaurs called sauropod dinosaurs. And through reconstruction, through the text, using the text, this is how it looks like. The sauropods are herbivores because they eat grass like an ox, who survived the flood and roamed during the days of Job. So here is Job drawn to scale, and look at the description of the body parts. Cedar-like tails, force in the belly, iron in the legs. So the largest sauropods are the Titanosaurus group. They weigh up to about 80 tons. When they mature, the footprint is about 1.7 meter long. And the necks may be up to 15 meter long as well. So these are big animals. But they are all vegetarians. All sauropods, dinosaurs are vegetarians. When I was speaking in Cambodia on this topic in Job, there is a very smart student came up and stand up and said, I have a question. He said, Job is a poetry. So maybe Job was written poetically about this animal and this is not real. I said, there are also other animals described in Job. Yeah? So whether poetry or not, there's a literal animal being described there. It's a bit like saying Psalm is a poetry, and Psalm 51, the confession of David sins against Bathsheba and also Uriah, is also poetic and is not real. How can you say this way? Yeah? So many things, even in the poetry book or wisdom book, they are real happenings that is being described for us. This is Bird's Paradise in Singapore. Last September, we brought our granddaughters to the place to visit because they like animals. So we watched their two shows. The first show is called Predators on Wings. The opening was wonderful, you know, with very engaging music and very expectant for the young kids. But the prologue is atheistic. So they start with saying, 250 million years ago, dinosaurs evolved from small reptiles. I quickly leaned over to my two granddaughters and said, this is a lie. 160 million years ago. Then it continued, yeah? Birds evolved from dinosaurs. I say, there's another lie. And then it says 300 million years ago, finally, we are humans today. I say, this is a third lie. 3 lies in 1 minute. So in the evening, we have to do a deconstruction of their, their learning, during the day, right? So I read Genesis 1, verse 20 to 31 to them. Basically the creation of day 5 and day 6 of all the animals. So then they got it. They say, how can birds came from dinosaurs? Birds were created on day 5, dinosaurs were created on day 6. So it doesn't work for me. So there was a great animated and interactive discussion with them during the night. I think that was really the highlight of their trip when they're visiting us, because their parents was in KL attending a Christian conference. So children like them, 8 to 10 years old, they want to believe in God and also His Word. All we have to do is just to read the Word to them. Maybe use the simplest translation, and with a little bit of guidance, explanation, they will be able to get the story correctly. And this will help them to guard them against the evolutionary views that come to them when they go to high school, when they go to universities. And I was protected this way. I wasn't a Christian when I was given this kind of story from my stepmother. My stepmother runs through Genesis 1 to 11 with us, and I don't even understand a lot of the things. But when I went to university, this became a shield in my mind. I say, how can an ape evolve into a human being? Because I have to connect a lot of dots in between. I couldn't find those dots. And you cannot tell me to do experiment on it. Just trust it. I say, I cannot believe it. And at the same time, I was studying Mendelian genetics. And that really blew me away. That's why I did agriculture, because of the breeding program that the Mendel did to discover the genetics of dominance and recessive genes behind the whole, what you call inheritance role. You're welcome to Singapore when you visit Singapore's birth paradise when you visit Singapore. But make sure you bring your children there or your grandchildren there. You should be able to prepare yourself to explain to them that creation is real. Now, we talk a lot about historical science versus experimental science, so let's do a discovery program here today together. This piece of bone is a dinosaur bone. You probably recognize the dinosaur bone because you've probably seen it in pictures as well. There's a label associated with it. There are 2 pieces of information there. One is a name of the dinosaur, which I don't want to pronounce it because I may pronounce it wrong. The second piece of information is the 75 millions of years. Tell me which is observational science? The name or the age? How many say the name? Observational science. Experimental science. The name or the age? The name. Has to be the name, right? Because the name is a classification system coming from a man-made classification. It's okay. It is this dinosaur because it marries up with the bones. We can see the structure of the bones. But the age is 75 million years ago. That is historical science. Because that is a conjecture that the dinosaur died out, this dinosaur died out 75 million years ago. So age, so when you discover a bone like this, it doesn't have labels like this. You have to discover yourself what animal is this, when it died out. But we don't, as Christians, we never examine when it does die out, because we know that it died out during Noah's flood. Yeah? So the fact is the bone. That is operational science or experimental science. You can even test the bones for minerals, and you can test the rocks surrounding it for the minerals. I'm sure that they marries up, because the minerals around the bone came into the animals and fill up the bones, and they become fossils. So this is, in the present, is observable, and any test that you do on the bones is repeatable. But the 75 million years old label is historical, is an interpretation based on a worldview. So if I believe that dinosaurs died out many, many million years ago, and then I constructed a timeline for that, then I would say, yes, this is 75 million years old. But it's not based on science. It's just based on some conjecture to fit the billions of years of evolution. So how do you ascertain the age of the bone? We need at least one eyewitness account, better two. But no eyewitness account is given here because it's too far apart. Man evolution and dinosaur evolution is just too far apart. So there is no eyewitnesses. How do you ascertain the age of the earth, the age of the bone? You cannot. The age of the earth, the age of the bones, the age of the animals, all these cannot be ascertained through any scientific method. There is no scientific method to measure it. And you may want to have a question for us on radiometric dating later on. We'll describe to you how bad it is. So right now, I'm going to talk to you about some artifacts that across the different civilizations give us to ascertain that the dinosaur they have seen during the time. Yeah? So this is in Cambodia, in Taman temple in Angkor Wat, about 1200 AD. Okay? On this temple panel, which I highlighted in the red triangle, are different carvings of different animals. There are birds, there are water buffaloes, there are deer, there are monkeys, in this what we call circular motifs. There's one unique animal. What is it? The kid will be able to tell me it's Stegosaurus. Straight away they will say it's Stegosaurus. Now, the first Stegosaurus fossil was discovered in 1877, which is 691 years earlier. But it is highly unlikely temple artists drew from a scientific publication. They cannot have the publication during that time, yeah, in 1877. It is more likely they carved this Stegosaurus dinosaur from a face-to-face encounter or from a memory that they've encountered it before, along with other animals. So here's one evidence that there is a piece of art left over by the civilization that shows us that they have an encounter with this dinosaur after the flood. Now, this is the tomb of Richard Bishop Bell in Carlisle. And there's the dates there, 1478 to 1495. Okay, this is in northwest England. Now, you will notice the blue carpet that protects the tomb from further wear and tear due to foot traffic. But when you uncover the blue carpet, it reveals the tomb. A narrow brass fillet runs around the edge of the tomb. On this brass fillet are depictions of various animals such as fish, eel, dog, pig, bird, and weasel. Okay? But there's one animal that they also drawn on this brass fillet. These are the two animals locking their heads together. They are basically sauropods dinosaurs. And in those days in Europe, before the word dinosaur was invented, they were called dragons. Now they have been identified as Sunosaurus and Volcanodon. You see on the left side, Sunosaurus, on the tail, there are 4 tail spikes. This is an accurate depiction of how the tails have been carved out. So they are not mythical animals. They realistically carve out the spikes specific to this Sunosaurus. The other thing is, the tail is hanging in the air. Yeah? So that means they're not dragging on the ground. Dinosaurs don't drag their tails on the ground. So they are actually well-carved, picture on the brass fillet. More accurate than the very first dinosaur drawings they drawn out, which are tails dragging the ground. And it's going to be very painful for the dinosaurs. Now here's even more tremendous for us, more amazing. Bronze sculpture in Mali. About 1500 to 1600, they worked with bronze sculptures. So they depicted themselves riding on ordinary animals like horses, giraffes, and crocodiles, but also dinosaurs on the screen. This sculpture shows that an adult on the left and a child on the right riding on two different plant-eating dinosaurs. Let me just go back a bit. So the names are given on the slides. Now, it is likely that they kept them as pets or for transportation purposes, or perhaps for work as well. The very first dinosaur's thigh bones was discovered in 1824. In 1825, Iguanodon was described from a piece of teeth that they found, and based on the very few fossils, early construction of dinosaurs were inaccurate as well. Now, these are the Dogon tribes. They also depicted their dinosaurs more accurately than the paleontologists in the 1800s, because the tails are hanging in the air rather than dragging the ground. The Chinese zodiac is used as the lunar calendar as early as the Warring States period, which is about 475 to 221 BC, during the Warring State period. It's made out of 12 animals. Each animal in the zodiac is common even today, except the odd one out. I don't know whether you recognize that. That is the dragon. As you probably aware, some of you know Chinese. Dragon is long, dinosaur is konglong or fierce dragon. They are common words. So it's actually interchangeable, dragon and dinosaurs, as long as they're land animals. Yeah? So given that 11 are common animals, it is really unlikely that the dragon is a mystical animal on the chart. Logically, the dragon will have to be a common encounter in ancient China. And today, we saw a spectrum of different dinosaurs have been dug up all over China, from Inner Mongolia to Ningxia to Sichuan province. There are many dinosaur graveyards left over from the Ark, the flood of Noah. In fact, if you go back to one of the jade culture in the Hongshan culture with their skills in what you call crafting jade from it, there are two examples of dinosaurs that they crafted out, accurately depicting Centrosaurus and Protoceratops. Now, the only question is really the placement of the horn of Protoceratops in Centrosaurus on the left side of the picture. But they are dinosaurs, yeah, very well crafted out. Now, if you go now to Middle East, to Iraq, basically in Uruk, that time, they used to make a lot of cylinder seal imprint. They basically a kind of a roller type of cylinder to roll over soft mud to make imprint of really writings or animals, and in this case it's writings, so that they make into tiles. Of course, the soft clay would be burned into hard tiles, and then they put on the wall of their buildings. Now, these two dinosaurs are locking horns, are locking their necks against each other, and now we know they're named tiny surface, which means very long neck dinosaur. The drawing was remarkably accurate to what we know as reconstructed fossil before the word dinosaur was invented. Because this is something like 2000 BC, years ago. To produce such accurate drawings, you have to be a common dinosaur that they encountered then. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so accurate, right? Now, just now, Dr. Ron Nella has gone through the soft tissues. I think there is, probably can repeat a little bit of it. This is not a dinosaur encounter, but it is what you call a no verifiable live sighting of dinosaur. But this is a close enough to a live dinosaur because your live tissues being encountered. So in 1993, red blood cells were found in a T-Rex bone that was partially mineralized only. The leg bones were dug up from Hell Creek Formation, which is in Montana. They were transported in a helicopter to the lab in Arizona, where Mary Schweitzer was situated. And so she said this, it was exactly like looking at a slice of modern bone, but of course I couldn't believe it. I said to the lab technician, the bones after all are 65 million years old. How could blood cells survive that long? So first they discovered blood cells, which is shown in this slide. This is a T-Rex bone of the blood cells of dinosaurs. And then later on they discovered further more tissues. They say as the fossils dissolved, transparent vessels were left behind. It was totally shocking, Schweitzer says. I didn't believe it until we've done it 17 times because they were questioned. A lot of people were challenging their findings. So they had to repeat the findings again and again and then they publish it, they have to publish it. But unfortunately, she's an old earth Christian. Obviously, we know that this cannot be 65 million years old. It has to be something around 4,500 years buried in the flood. It just didn't get mineralized, and that the tissue still remains protected in the bones, and that they could do some research on it. So she said further, so that leaves us with two alternatives for interpretation. Either the dinosaurs aren't as old as we think they are, which is correct, yeah? Or maybe we don't know exactly how these things get preserved. So she decided to go to the iron preservation method. I actually corresponded with her. She said, I have this tissue being preserved in iron for about 3 years now. There's no degradation. But I'm sure it will degrade at some point in time later on. Now, there are other materials being done as well across, and then they discover that if the soil temperature range from -2 to 22 degrees in Montana itself, the only plausible explanation is that they cannot be more than 350,000 years old, using accelerated test. So these dinosaurs were buried in Noah's flood about 4,500 years ago. That is the only valid explanation from the Bible. Now, this is a geologic column about 4.5 billion years old. The age of dinosaurs is in the Mesozoic era, which is the green shaded area, and the extinction event is just above it. So the very popular extinction theory is the massive meteorite strike, right? That's what they talk about it. But there were actually over 100 theories on dinosaur extinction as of 2011. I think there are probably a few more now. So if you have over 100 theories about extinction, what does it mean? That means they cannot be sure which is the extinction theory. But they always go to the meteorite extinction method theory because it is assumed to produce a global winter which wiped out all the dinosaurs. But we do have questions about this theory. Why do the crocodiles, the frogs, the salamanders, the lizards survive the extinction event and not the dinosaurs? Because these animals are softer than the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are harder. So this theory is questionable. Our explanation is this. Here's a biblical view. After the flood, dinosaurs repopulated the earth, but gradually die out due to a combination of factors. Climate oscillations for about 500, 700 years. Habitat loss because of the creation of city-states by Nimrod and his gang. Agriculture have to develop along the river systems, and there were a lot of human activity on hunting the animals down for food, because planting crops require time. Yeah? So today we know that hunting and land use method also endanger a number of animal groups: tigers, rhinoceros, and elephants. Okay? So hunting is really a big thing that may actually caused extinction in a lot of the animal groups that we see today. So let me just wrap up the worldview about dinosaurs. Only the biblical worldview makes sense of the world of the past, the present, and the future. The Bible has much to say about dinosaurs and dragons. You just have to track the Hebrew word and you will get an understanding of what it means in contextually. Now this is a publication by Paul Serino. He's an evolutionist. Over 1,000 fossils of dinosaurs have been catalogued to form what you call a dinosaur evolutionary tree. So I'm not sure if you can see anything. Probably it's just too faint. There is a ancestor which is at the bottom of the chart. Now, this chart is built on both real ranges, which is in black lines, and missing in fragmentary ranges, shaded and dotted bars. The missing fragmentary ranges are called ghost lineages. Ghost lineages have no direct fossil evidence. So we can recolor it. So the blue ones and the red ones are the highlighted ghost lines. Yeah? So when you remove it, because they don't have real evidence, then the dinosaur tree basically disappeared. The evolutionary tree disappeared. So now it resembles what we call the creation kinds at creation. They were diversified and destroyed in Noah's flood, which is here. At creation, this is how it forms, and then at Noah's flood, they were destroyed. Therefore, you have these different species, about 50 to 55 kinds of dinosaurs. So they say dinosaurs have one era, died out 65 million years ago, but this is contrary. I'm giving you contrary ages of dinosaurs. There are 5 real ages of dinosaurs. They left their very deep footprints in the Bible, based on scriptures. They were formed on day 6, the same day as mankind was created. They were older than the mankind by a few hours. They were fallen after the curse. They were flooded and destroyed, except those on the ark, which God sent to Noah. And then they faded from the post-flood climate change and human influence and went extinct, like many other species as well. But they were found again in fossils. And the word dinosaur was invented to name such fossils in 1841 by Sir Richard Owen. When was the first publication of the King James Version? 1611, well before the word dinosaur was discovered. But the Bible never uses dinosaurs even after that. It uses terms like beast, cattle, behemoth, and possibly also tannin. The Hebrew words are really consistent. They don't need to be reinterpreted using dinosaurs. Romans 5:12, which you read before, therefore just as sin entered into the world through one man and death through sin, and this way death came to all men because all sinned. This is the importance of why we need a biblical worldview. The Bible is trustworthy. The gospel begins at the fall at a very good creation. The gospel is for mankind. The very good man sinned after creation week. Sin brought death. The whole creation now groans under the curse of the ground. But God, as Jesus Christ, reached out to fallen mankind. The so-called millions of years distort the true salvation plan that God has for us. And Jeremiah has warned us in Jeremiah chapter 10, talking about the gods who did not create the heavens and the earth. They will perish under the heaven. They perish away from the earth. That's what he said. Dinosaurs are a great topic for evangelism. They survived the flood, you can talk about it. You have the full backing of the Old Testament prophets to talk about dinosaurs. The apostles and also Jesus Christ talk about it as dragon. or as a serpent. In fact, Jesus said this, and as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the Son of Man. The flood points to the future return of Jesus Christ. And this is the hope of the gospel. Because he will come again, because he wants to go to a better place. Okay? So, make sure we know this in our heart. Now, I have a few resources to promote Creation Magazine, which Ron has promoted before. So you can subscribe. This is the price. You can subscribe with the ladies downstairs in the book tables. We have also a few dinosaur books that we brought along with us. This one is really good. This one, Exploring Dinosaurs with Mr. Hip, is for middle school and upwards. Michael Ork and his team wrote this. And many of the images I took from this particular book, Untold Secrets of Planet Earth and Dire Dragons by Vance Nielsen. It's written for all ages in the family because there are a lot of photographs and much more than I've given to you in this 50-minute talk. And of course, if you've got just enough money to buy one book, this is the book you must get. And also this one alongside with it for the kids. We have what we call a very heavy book, 800 pages. This is called the Genesis account from chapter 1 to 11, a thorough review theologically, historically, and scientifically about the truth of God's word in Genesis 1 to 11. And of course, you want to make sure your children survive, your grandchildren survive the world culture today. So this is a survival guide for them, which is going to guide them, help them to shield away from the influence of the world. Okay, I think that is the end of my talk so far. Now, you might have just a couple of questions. I can entertain it, and then later on we're going to have a big forum of discussion later on. Yeah. Any urgent question you want me to address now? If not, we'll just flow into the next session. I'll take the time back to you, and you may want to coordinate this.